Sakchit Ananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Sahasrapatra Kamalam Gokulakyam Mahatpadam Tat Karnikaram Tad Dama Taranam Tam Shasambhavam Karnikaram Mahadjantram Shatkonam Vajrakilakam Shadanga Shatpadistanam Prakritya Purushena Cha Premananda Mahananda Rasena Vastitam Hiyad Jyoti Rupena Manuna Kama Bijena Sangatam Tatkinjalkam Tadangshanam Tatpatrani Shriyam Api Chaturasram Tatparita Shweta Dvipakyam Chatur Asram Chatur Murtesh Chatur Dhama Chatushkritam Chaturbhi Purushartaishcha Chaturbhir Hetuvirvatam Shular Dashabiradantam Urdvadho Dig Vidikshwapi Ashtabhir Nidibhir Jushtam Ashtabhi Siddhibhistata Manurupaishcha Dashabhir Dikpalai Paritovratam Shamayar Goraishcha Raktaishcha Shuklaishcha Parshadarshabahe Shobitam Shaktibhistabhir Adbhutabhi Samantataha Evam Jyotirmayo Deva Sarananda Paratparaha Atmaramasthitasyasti Prakrityana Samagamaha Mayaya Ramamanasya Naviyogastayasaha Atmana Ramaya Reme Tyakvakalam Sushikshaya Niyati Sa Rama Devi Tapriya Tadvasham Tada Talingam Bhagavan Shambhur Jyoti Rupa Sanatanaha Ya Yoni Sa Parashakti Kamo Bijam Mahadarehe Linga Yonyatmika Jata Ima Maheshwari Praja Shaktiman Purusha Soyam Linga Rupi Maheshwara Tasmin Avirabu Linge Mahavishnu Jagatpatihi Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sahasra Bahur Vishvatma Sahasram Sham Sahasrasuhu Narayana Sabhagavan Apastasmat Sanatanat Avirasit Kararnarno Nidhi Sankarshanatmakaha Yoga Nidram Katastasmin Sahasram Shaswayam Mahan Tadroma Bila Jaleshu Bijam Sankarshanasya Cha Haimanyandari Jatani Mahabhuta Vratani Tu Pratyandam evam ekam shad vishati swayam Sahasra murdha vishvatmas Mahavishnu sanatanaha Vamangad asrajad vishnum Dakshinangat prajapatim Jyotirlingamayam shambhum Korchadeshad avasrajad Ahankaratmakam vishvam tasmad etad vyajayata Atatais trividarbesher lilam udvahata kila Yoga nidra bhagavati tasya shrir eva samgata Shashikshayam tato nabes tasya padmam baniryayo Tannalma nalinam brahmano lokam adbhutam Tatvani purvarudhani karanani parasparam Samavaya prayogachcha vibinani pratak pratak Chichaksha shajjamano ta bhagavan adi purushaha Yojayan maya ya devo yoga nidram akalpayat Yojayitva tutanyeva pravivesha swayam guham Guham pravishte tasmimstu jivatma pratipudyate Sanityo nitya sambandha prakritischa paraivasa Evam sarvatma sambandham nabhyam padmam harerabhut Tatra brahmad bhavad bhuyash chaturvedi chaturbhukaha Sanjato Bhagavachchaktya Tatkalam Kilachoditaha Shashikshayam Matim Chakre Purva Samskara Samskritaha Tadarsha Kevalam Dvantam Nanyat Kim Api Sarvataha Uvacha Puratastasmai Tasya Divya Saraswati Kama Krishnaya Govinda Hikopi Jana Ityapi Valabhaya Priyahvaner Mantram Te Dasyati Priyam Tapastvam Tapaetena Tavasiddhir Bhavishyati Atatepe Sasuchiram Prinang Govindam Avyayam Shweta Dvipa Patim Krishnam Golokastam Paratparam Prakritya Guna Rupinya Rupinya Paryupasitam Sahasradala Sampanne Kotikinjoka Brahmite Bhumishchintamani Tatra Karnikare Mahasane Samasinam Chidanandam Jyoti Rupam Sanatanam Shabda Brahmamayam Venum Vadayantam Mukham Bhuje Vilasani Ganavratam Swashvar Amshar Abhishtutam Athavenu Ninadasya Traimurti Mayigatihi Spuranti Praviveshashu Mukhabjani Swayambhuvaha Gayatrim Gayatastasmad Adigatya Sarojajaha Samskritaschari Gununa Dvijatam Agamatataha Traya Prabhuto Tavidhir Vignata Tatvasagaraha Tushtava Vinasarena Stotrinanina Keshavam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukal Praviksha Laksha Vriteshu Sudabira Pipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venung Kwanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Sam Asitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Malya Vamshi Ratnangadam Pranaya Keli Kalavilasam Shyamam Tribanga Lalitam Niyata Prakasham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pashyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayauvanam Cha Vedeshu Dulabham Adulabham Atma Bhaktao Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Shatavatsara Sambragamyo Vayoradhapi Manaso Munipungavanam Sopyastiya Prapadasimnya Vichintya Tattve Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Saura Charitum Jagadanda Kotim Yatshaktirasti Jagadanda Chayaya Dantaha Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yadbhava Bhavitatiyo Manujasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusha Suktaryameva Nagama Pratitaistuvanti Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Taya Kalabi Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma puto. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Premanjana chudita bhakti vilochanena. Santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. Yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Ramari murti shukalani amena tishtan. Nanavataram akarod bhuvaneshu kintu. Krishna swayam samababat parama pumanyo. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Yasya prabha prabhabato jagadanda koti. Koti shashesha vasudari vibhuti bhinnam. Tad brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Maya hiyasya jagadanda shatani sute. Traigunya tadvishaya veda vitaya mana. Sadva valambi parasatvam vishuddha satvam. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasatmataya manasu. Yapraninam pratipalam smarutam upetya. Lilayatena bhuvanani jayatya jasram. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Golokanamni nijadamni tale chatasya. Devi mahesha haridama suteshu teshu. Te prabhava nichaya vihitascha yena. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Shristi stiti pralaya sarana shakti reka. Chayeva yasya bhuvanani viparati durga. Ichchandurupam api yasya chateshta testa. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Shiram yatara vikara vishesha yogar. Sanjayate nahi tatah pratakasti heto. Yasham bhutam api tata sambupaiti karyar. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Deparchere vahida shantanam abhyupetya. Dipayate vrvata hetu samana dharma. Yastadrage vahicha vishnu chaya vipati. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Yakarnarna bhajale bhajati sma yoga. Nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupaha. Adhara shaktim avalambya param samurtim. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Yashaika nishvasita kalamatavalamya. Jivanti loma vilaja jagadanda natha. Vishnur mahansa ihayasya kala vishesho. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Bhasvanyatashma shakaleshu nijeshu tejaha. Swiyam kiya prakatayata vitadvadatra. Brahmaya esha jagadanda vidhana karta. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Yat pada pallava yugam vinidaya kumbha. Dvanve pranama samaye sakanadi rajaha. Vignan vidhantum alamasya jagatrayasya. Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Agnir mahi gaganam amumududishascha. Kalastatatma manasiti jagatrayani. Yasmad bhavanti vivavanti vishanti yamcha. Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yat Shakshudesha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rashesha Tejaha Yasjagnaya Brahmati Sambrata Kala Chakro Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Shrutayastapamsi Brahmari Kita Patagava Deyashcha Jiva Yadatra Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yastvindra Gopa Matavindra Mahosva Karma Bandhanu Rupa Palabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayari Piti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrishim Tanamapurete Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Sri Akanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Ruma Bhumishchintamani Garamai Toyamamritam Katha Ganam Natyam Gamanamapivam Shri Priyasaki Chidanandam Jyoti Paramapi Tadaswadyam Maticha Sayatra Shirabdhi Sravati Surabhibhyasya Sumahan Nimeshardhyakyo va vrajati nahi atrapi samayaha Bhaje Shvetadipam tamaham yaha golokamitiyam Vidantaste santakshiti viralachara katipaye Ato vacha mahavishnur bhagavantam prajapatim Brahman mahadva vignane prajasarge chichinmatihi Pancha shlokim imam vidyam vatsatatvam niboda me Prabhu de jnana bhakti vyam atmayananda chinmayi Ude tunitama bhaktir bhagavat prema lakshana Pramanais tat saracharais tadabhyaser nirantaram Bodhayanatmanatmanam bhaktim apyutamam labhe Yasya shreyaskaram nasti yaya nivritum apnuyad Yasariyati mameva bhaktim tameva sadayed Dharmananyan parityaja mamekam bhaja vishwasan Yadrishi yadrishi shraddha siddhir bhavati tadrishi Kurvan nirantaram karma loko yam anuvartate Tenaiva karmana dhyayan mam param bhaktimicchiti Aham hi vishvasya characharasya bijam pradhanam prakriti pumamscha Maya hitam deja idam bibarshi vide videhi samato jaganji Ishvaraha parama Krishna sakchit ananda vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Sugiwa. Next. Samsara davan alalita loka Tranaya karunya gana gana tvam Praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya Bande guroshi charanaravidam Mahaprabho kirtanandritya gita Varitramadyan manasorasena Romanchakam pashutaranga bhajo Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandira Marjanadao Yuktasya Bhaktamschaniyunjatopi Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swadanna Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangan Kritvaiva Tripting Bhajatas Sadaiva Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Shri Radhika Madhava Rapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namnam Pratikshana Swadana Lolupasya Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Yaya Lipir Yuktira Pekshaniya Tatrati Dakshadati Ballabhasya Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Sakshadarittvena Stamasta Shastre Uktastata Bhavyate Eva Sadbhihi Kintu Praporya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Srimad Gururashtakameta. Did you do it? Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutopi Dhyayan Stuvam Stasya Yashastri Sandhyam Vande Guroshi Charanaravindam Srimad Gururashtakameta Duchchar Brahme Muhurte Patati Prayatnad Yastena Vrindavananata Sakshad Sevaiva Labhya Janashonte Eva. Those who repeat that mantra in the Brahma Muhurta very loudly go back to Godhead. Srimad Gurur Ashtakam Eta Duchchar Brahme Muhurte in the Brahma Muhurta Pratati Prayatnat Yastena Vrindavananata Sakshat. Directly they go to Goloka. That's the power of the parampara. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate Ishavasyam idang sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magradha kasya svidhanam kurvane veha karmani jijivishekshatam samaha evam tvainanya tosti na karma lipite nare Asurya namate loka antena tamasavrita tamste pratyavigachanti yekichatma hanojana anejarikam manaso javiyo naina devapnuvam purvanarshat tadavato jnanat yetitishtat tasmina pomatarishva dadati Tadejati tanaijati tadure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya sibhayataha yastu sarvani bhutani atmani vanupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tatona vijagupsate Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmai vadbhud vijanataha tatra ko mohakashoka ekatvam manupashyataha Saparya gachukram akayam avranam asnaviram shudham apapavidham kavirmanishi paryabhu swayambhur yatha tatyathortan vyaradhashasvatibhya samabhya antam tama pravishyanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya uvidyayam rataha anyarevahur vidyaya anyanahur vidyaya iti shushru madhiranam yena stad vijichakshire vidyam cha yas tadvedo payam saha avidyaya mritum tirtva vidyayam mritum ashnute andang tama pravishyanti ye sambhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yau sambhutyam vrataha anyad evahu sambhavad anyarahur sambhavad iti shushu madhiranam yenastad vichachakshire sambhuting cha vinasham cha yastad vedo payam saha vinashena mritum tirtva sambhutyam mritum ashnute hiranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukam tatvam pushan apavranu satyadharmaya drishtaye pushani karshayama surya prajapatya vyuharashmin samuha tejo yate rupam kalyanatamam tate pushyami yosavasau purushasomasmi vayur anilamamratam atedam basmantam shariram Om krato smara kritam smara Agnenaya supataraya asman vishvani deva vayunani vidvan Yuyodyasmashtu harana meno bhuyishtam te nama uktim vidhema. Nectar of instruction. Vacho vegam manasakrota vegam jihva vegam udarapasta vegam etan vegam yo vishaheta tira sarvamapimam prityavimsha shishya atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangashcha lalyam cha shadbhir bhaktir vinashyati utsahan nishchayad dharyat tatat karma pravartanat sangatyagat satovrate shadbir bhakti prasidyati dadati pratagannati kuhyam akyati prichyati bhunkte bhojayate chaiva shadvidam priti lakshanam Krishneti yasya kiditam manasadriyeta dikshasti che pranati bishcha bhajantamisham shushrushraya bhajana vignam ananyamanya nindari shunya rinamipshita sangalabdhya Trishtai svabhava janitar vapushascha doshar na prakritatva bhaktya danasya pashed gangam basam nakalu buddha pena pankar brahma dravavvam apakachati niradharmai syat krishna nama charitat vidya pito patapta rasanasya narochakanu Kintvavarad anudilam kalu saiva jushta swadvikramad bhavati tad gadamula hantri tannama rupa charitadi sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasanama nasini yoja tishtam vrajetananuragi jananugami kalam nayere kilamityupadesha saram Vaikuntaj janito varamadupuri tatrapi rasotsavan Vrindaranya mudara pani ramanata trapi govardhanaha Radha kundami hapi gokalapate pramamratap lavanat Kuryadasya virajato giditete sivam vivekinakaha Karamibhyah parito hare priyataya vyaktim yayurjnaninas Tebhyo jnana vimukta bhakti parama premaika nishtastata Tebhyasta pashupala pankadadrishastabhyopi saradhika Preshta tadvad iyam tadiya sarasitam nashrayat kakriti Krishna syochaya pranaya vasati prasibhyopi radha Kundam chasya munibirapitas tadrageva vyadhayi Yat preshter apyalam asulabam kim punar bhakti bhajam Tat premedam sakrit api saras natur avishkaroti Shri Upadeshamrita Sampurnam Radhe Sham. Bhagavad Gita as is. Chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action, Krishna Consciousness, Sannyas Yoga. Karma Sannyas Yoga. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punar Yogam Chashamshasi Yachtraya Etayorekam Tame Bruhi Sunishchitam Sri Bhagavan Vacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nrishiyasya Karavubhau Tayostu Karma Sannyasad Karma Yogo Vashishyate Yeyak Sanitya Sannyasi Yona Dveshti Nakangshati Nirdvandvo Hi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchyate Sankhya Yoga Pratag Bala Pravadanti Napandita Ekamapyastita Samyag Ubayor Vindate Palam Yat Sankhya Prapyate Stanam Tad Yogar Apigamyate Ekam Sankyam Cha Yogam Cha Yapashyati Sapashyati Sannyasastu Mahabaho Dukhamaptum Ayogataha Yoga Yukto Manir Brahma Nacharand Adigachyati Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma Vijitatma Jitendriyaha Sarvabhutatma Bhutatma Kurvan Api Nalipyate Naiva Kinchit Karomiti Yukto Manyeta Tatvavit Pashyan Shrinvan Sprashan Tigran Ashnan Gachan Swapan Swashan Pralapan Vistrajan Grindan Unmishan Nimishan Napi Indriyan Indriyarteshu Vartanta Iti Dharayan Brahmanyadaya Karmani Sangam Chakva Karoti Yaha Lipyatena Sapapena Padma Patram Ivambasa Kayena Manasa Buddhya Kevalarindriyarapi Yogina Karma Kurvanti Sangam Tyaktva Mashudhaye Yukta Karma Palam Tyaktva Shantimapnoti naishtikim ayukta kamakarena pale sakto nibadyate sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadware pure dehi naiva kurvan nakarayan nakatritvam nakarmani lokasya srijati prabhu nakarma pala samyogam svabhavastu pravartate nadate kasyachit papam nachaiva sukritam vibhuhu ajnanin navritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha jnanena tutadajnanam yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham aditya vajjnanam prakashayati tatparam tadbhudayas tadatmanas tanishtas tatparayanaha gacchantya punar avritim jnana nirduta kalmashaha vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shapake cha pandita samadarshinaha ihaiva terjita sargo yesham samyestatam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasma brahmanite chistaha na prarishyat priyam prapya no dvijet prapya cha priyam stira bhutira samudho brahma vid brahmanistitaha bhaya sparshe swasaktatma vindatyatmani yatsukam sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashrute yehi samsparsha bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddhaha shaknoti haiva yashodhum praksharira vimokshanat kama krododbhavam vegam sayukta sasuki naraha yonta sukhontara ramas tatantar jyotir evayaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto digacchati labante brahma nirvanam rishayashina kalmasaha chinna dvaidhaya tatmana sarvabhuta hiterata kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhita brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam sparshan kritva bahirbhayam chakshus chaivantare bruvoho pranapanau samau kritva nasabhyantara charinau yatendriya manobudhir munir moksha parayanaha vigatecha bhayakrodho yaksada mukta evasaha bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suriram sarvabhutanam gyatva shantim richati Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Suna Sambhare Sannyas Yoga Nama Panchamodhyayaha Hari Om Shri Namashtakam by Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikila Shuti Mali Ratnamala Duti Nirajita Pada Pankajanta Muktakaleru pasyamanam paritwastam harinama samshrayami. Jayanama deha munivrindagehe janaranjanaya paramakshaраkrite Tomanararapimana gudiritam nikilogra tapa potalimba lumpasi Yada bhaso pyudyang kavilita bhavadvanta vibabo Drisham tatvandhanam api dishati bhakti pranayinim Janastasyo datam jagati bhagavan namatarine Kriti te nirvaktum kaiha mahimanam prabhavati Yad brahma sakshat kriti nishayapi Vinashamayati vinan bhogai Apaiti nama spuradena tate Prarabdha karmeti virauti vedaha Agadamana yashodananda nao nandasuno Kamalanayana gopi chandra vrindavanendra Pranata karuna krishna ityaneka swarupe Tvai mamratiruchar vardatam namadhyeya Vachyam vachakamityudeti bhavato nama swarupa dvayam Purvasmat parameva hanta karunam tatrapi janimahe Yastasmin vihita parabda nivaha prani samantad bhave Asye nedam upasya sopihi sadanandam bhutau mujjati Sudita shrita janarti rashaye Ramya chitgana sukha swarupine Nama gokula mahotsavayate Krishna purna vapushe namo namaha Narda vino jivana Sudormi nirasa madhuri pura Tvam Krishna nama kamam Spurame rasane rasena sada Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Do we get Divinity and Divine Service? Yes. We have it? Can we have that? And the prayers of Queen Kunti. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Divinity and Divine Service. Vyasuvacha iti samprashna sambrishto vipranam brahmaharshanihi pratipuja vachastesham pravaktum upachakrame sutuvacha yam pravajantam anupetyam apetya dvaipayano viraha kartara ajuhava Putreti tanmayatayata ravo binedus tam sarva bhuta hridayam munim anatosmi yasvanubhavam akila shuti saramekam adhyatma deepam atitirshatam tamondam samsarinam karunayaha purana kuhyam tam vyasa sunum upayami gurun muninam Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye munayak sadhu prishtoham bhavadbhir lokamangalam yakrita krishna samprashno yinatma suprasidati savai pumsam paro dharmo Yato bhakti radhoksaje ahaitu kriya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayat Yashuvairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam Dharma Shwanustita Pumsam Vishvaksena Katha Suyaha Notparayed Yadiratim Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam Dharmasya Hyapavargasya Nartartayo Pakalpate Nartasya Dharmaikantasya Kamulabaya Hismitaha Kamasya Nendriya Pritir Labo Jiveta Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jignasa Narto Yascheha Karma Bihi Vedanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate tashcharadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashyantyatmani chatmanam bhakta shruta grihitaya Atak pumbir dvija shreshta varnashrama vipagashaha swanushtistasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam tasmade kena manasa bhagavan sattvatam patihi shotavya kirtitavyascha dhyeya pujascha nityada Yad anudyasina yukta karma granthi nibandanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim shushushaushadadhanasya vasudeva kataruchihi syanmahat sevaya vipra punyatirtha nashevanat Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sharvana Kirtanaha Hridyantaksto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Nashta Praeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Tadarajastamo bhava kamaloba dayaschaye cheta iterana vidham stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam bhukta sangasya jayate vidyate hridaya grantish Chidyante sarva samshaya Shiyante chasya karmani Drishta evatmanishvare Atova kavayo nityam Bhaktim paramaya muda Vasudeve bhagavati Kurvantyatma prasadanim Sattvam rajastamayiti prakritir gunayastayar Yukta para purusha eka ihasya date Stityadeye harivarinshi hareti samja Sheyamsi tatra kalu safatanornam suhu Partiva darano dhumas tasmadagnistrayi mayaha Tamasastu rajastasmad Sattvam yad brahma darshanam Bejire munayo tagre Bhagavantam atoksajam Sattvam vishudam shemaya Kalpante yenutaniha Mumokshavo gaura rupan Hitva bhuta patinata Narayana kalashanta Bhajanti yanasuyavaha Rajastama prakritaya Samashila bhajanti vai Pitrir bhuta prajeshadin Shri Aishvarya Prajapsavaha Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramakaha Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriyaha Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapaha Vasudeva Paro Dharmo Vasudeva Paragatihi Sa evedam sasarjagre Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Sarasa Drupaya Chasao Gunamaya Guno Vibhuhu Taya Vilasiteshveshu Guneshu Gunavan Niva Anta Pravishta Abhati Vijnanena Vrajrimbritaha Yata Yavahito Vanir Darushveka Swayonishu Naneva Bhati Vishvatma Bhuteshu Chatatapuman Asau Gunamayer Bhaver Bhuta Sukshmendriyatma Bihi Swanirmiteshu Nirvishto Bhunkte Bhuteshu Tadgunan Bhavayat Yesha Satvena Lokan Vai Lokabhavanaha Lila Vataranurato Devatiryan Nararishu. What happened to the colophon? Okay. Go ahead. Microphone. Do it real slow.
Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramhamsayan Samhityam Param Pratham Skande Naimishyo Pakhane Dvitiyo Adhyayah Hari Om.
Pranam prayers, otherwise known as the Mangalacharna. Mangalacharna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Midatam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Shri Navadvipa Para Pradipa Sandipyamana Satato Bhuviya Chaitastamohanti Hiyasya Yatnad Kam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Prachodita Shri Vasadya kosham kushalam kripalu samlecha vagdesha chayeda dadyas tam kirtayama prabhupada devam achadyate yat paratarka drishya govinda mutyujvala bhaskarena advaiti kadyota kulam jagatyam tam kirtayama prabhupada devam yasyaiva yadnena purana raja gangamala keshava keli hamsa satstotra ratna bahitiha loke tam kirtayama prabhupada devam Shri Radhika Krishna Padara Vinde Sahasra Hritsu Shatamandareshu Aropayadyo Madhure Prativyam Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Kaushalyadhar Yasya Sahasra Shastra Sastrati Varshai Pratayan Yatehi Shanda Kalir Moha Chamur Hatena Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Nana Lasad Gora Sudha Prakasha Palashito Stapita Eva Yena Krishna Nuchinta Jana Sangha Vrikshas Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Yo Nityada Jivata Daivikeshu Nijasu Shikshasu Susanugami Kripambulir Danda Shitatma Tam Kirtayama Prabhupada Devam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shri Varshabhana Videvi Dayataya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambhujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virvava Bhomestvam Nirdesha Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarva Bhoma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauda Tvishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surata Upangor Mamamanda Matergati Matsarvaswa Padambo Jao Radha Madana Mohanao Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanastao Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Preshtali Bhi Sevyamanu Smarami Sriman Rasa Rasarambhi Vamshi Vatatatastitaha Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindayai Tulsi Devyai Priyayai Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Nishinga Jai Nishinga Jai Jai Nishinga Pralada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Matsamo Nasti Papatma Naparadi Chakashana Parihare Pilajame Kimbruve Purushottama Yuvatinam Yata Yuni Yunam Cha Yuvatau Yata Mano Birmate Tadvan Mano Me Ramatam Twai Bhumau Skalita Padanam Bhumireva Valambanam Tvai Jata Paradhanam Tvameva Sharanam Prabho Govinda Balabe Radhe Prartaye Tvamaham Sada Tvariyamiti Janatu Govindo Mam Tvaya Saha Radhe Vrindavanadi She Karunamrita Vahani Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyam Mayam Pradiyatam Vande Nanda Vajashtinam Bhadurenam Abhikshnashaha Yasam Harigato Gitam Punati Pavanatrayam Namashreshtam Manamapi Shachiputram Atra Sarupam Shri Rupam Tasya Gajam Aruparim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratitikupaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Adadhana Stridam Tanter Idam Yache Puna Punaha Shriman Drupa Padamboja Rajoham Syam Bave Bave Hantaya Madhura Bala Haridas Savaryo Yadrama Krishna Charana Svarasha Pramodaha Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayos Tayor Yad Paniya Suyavasa Kandana Kandamulai Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Jagannath Ashtakam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. What is it? It takes a Jagannath Bhakta to notice such things. Kalindita tavipina sangita karavo muda bidinariva dana kamala swadamutupa Rama Shambhu Brahma Marapati Ganesha Chittapado Jagannatha Swami Yanapatagami Bhavatu me Bhujati Venum Shirasi Shiki Picham Titate Dukul Balam netrante sahachara kataksham vididate Sada Shrimad Davanavasati Lila Parichayo Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me Maham Bodhestire Kanaka Ruchire Nilashikare Vasan Prasadanta Sahaja Balabhadre Nabalina Subhadra Madhyasta Sakala Sura Seva Vasarado Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me Kripa Paravarasa Jala Jalada Shreni Ruchira Ramavani Rama Spuradamala Panke Ruhamuka Surendra Aradya Shuti Ganashika Gita Charito Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me Ratarudo Tachampa Timilita Udeva Patalai Stuti Pradurbhavam Pratipadnamupakarnya Sadaya Daya Sindur Bandhu Sakala Jagatam Dusutaya Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me Para Brahma Pida Kuvalaya Dulo Pulanayano Nivasini Ladra Nihita Charano Nilta Shirasi Rasanando Radha Sarasa Vapu Alingana Suko Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me Navayache Rajam Nachakana Kamani Kyavibhava Nayache Ham Ram Yam Sakala Janakam Yam Varavadhu Sadakale Kale Pramata Patina Gita Charito Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me Haratvam Samsaram Drutatanamasam Sudapate Haratvam Papanam Vitatim Aparam Yaravapate Ahodine Nati Nihitacharano Nishchitamida Jagannatha Swami Yanapatagami Bhavatu me Jagannatashtakam punyam yapatet prayatashuchi Sarva papa vishudatma Vishnu lokam sagachati. All you going back to home, back to Godhead. That's it. Finished. All over. It's just a launching pad. Okay. You had enough shlokas? Nice though, right? Yes. They have a few shlokas. Did we have any other ashtakams? We have we should sing the Damodar Ashtakam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namam Vishwaram Sa Idananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Kokule Brajamanam Yashoda Biolukala Param Vrishtamatyantato Drujagopyaha Rudantam Buhur Netra Jugmam Brijantam Karamboja Yugmena Satanka Netram Muhushvashakam Patri Rekanka Kanta Sita Graiva Damodaram Bhakti Bhajam Tidrik Salilabir Ananda Kunde Sagosham Nimajantam Akyapayantam Tadiye Shitageshu Bhaktir Jitatvam Puna Prematastam Shatabiti Vande Varam Deva Moksham Na Moksham Badimba Nachanyam Vrineham Vareshadapiha Idam te vapurnata gopala balam sada me manasya viranyay Idam te mukam bojam atyanta nilar Ritam kundalaistigda raktaishta gopya Muhushchumbitam bimba raktadaram me Manastya virastamalam lakshalabhai Namo Deva Damoda Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabodhuka Jalabdi Magnam Kripa Drishti Vrishchati Dinam Batanu Grihanesha Mamagdam Edakshi Drishyai Kuverat Majao Badha Murchaiva Yadvad Tvaya Mochitao Bhakti Bhajao Kritao Cha Tata Prema Bhaktim Swakam Me Prayacha Namokshe Graho Mesti Damodareha Namaste Studamne Svuradipti Damne Tadio Darayata Vishasya Damne Namo Radhikayata Diaprayayai Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tuvyam Namo Radhikayata Diaprayayai Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam. Shri Damarashtakam ki jai. Krishna 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 He Krishna 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 He Krishna 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 Rakshamam Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahimam. We're continuing with our reading of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who left us this book so we could hear about Krishna and thus evolve our spiritual life just by hearing. And last night we heard that Krishna was killing demons. He started his killing. First he killed Putana, then who? Shakatasura. Then Trinavarta. Then, is that where we left off? Salvation with Trinavarta. And we did the universal form, vision with the universal form. Then Krishna ate dirt. And Krishna got cold on that one. She asked him to open his mouth and look in, but she was surprised because she saw the universe and all this planetary systems and everything complete within his mouth. She was amazed at first, and then she just thought, oh, he's my little boy. And yes?
Maharaj, there is a clarification. When you just now said that we are all going back to Godhead, that includes the online viewers also, right?
Yes.
I got a text message.
Online viewers going back to Godhead. Vishnu lokam sagachati. It's right in the shloka. Y'all's going back to Godhead. We are continuing in the reading of the Krishna book, counting down the minutes until Janmashtami. We'll be constantly hearing the Krishna book until that midnight hour every day. Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna. Once upon a time, seeing that her maidservant was engaged in different household duties, Mother Yashoda personally took charge of churning butter. And while she churned butter, she sang the childhood pastimes of Krishna and enjoyed thinking of her son. The end of her sari was tightly wrapped while she churned, and on account of her intense love for her son, milk automatically dripped from her breast, which moved as she labored very hard, churning with 2 hands. The bangles and bracelets on her hands tinkled as they touched each other, and her earrings and breast shook. There were drops of perspiration on her face, and the flower garland, which was on her head, scattered here and there. Before this picturesque sight, Lord Krishna appeared as a child. He felt hungry, and to increase his mother's love, he wanted her to stop churning. He indicated that her first business was to let him suck her breast, and then she could churn butter later. Mother Yashoda took her son on her lap and pushed the nipple of her breast into his mouth. And while Krishna was sucking the milk and smiling, she was enjoying the beauty of her child's face. Suddenly, the milk, which was on the stove, began to boil over. Just to stop the milk from spilling, Mother Yashoda at once put Krishna aside and went to the stove. Left in that state by his mother, Krishna became very angry, and his lips and eyes became red in rage. He bit his lips with his teeth, and taking up a piece of stone, he immediately broke the butter pot. He took butter out of it, and with false tears in his eyes, he began to eat the butter in a secluded place. In the meantime, Mother Yashoda returned to the churning place after seeing the overflowing milk pan in order to setting the overflowing milk pan in order. She saw the broken pot in which the churning yogurt had been kept. Since she could not find her boy, she concluded that the broken pot was his work. She smiled and she thought, the child is very clever. After breaking the pot, he has left this place, fearing punishment. After she sought all over, she found her son sitting on a big wooden grinding mortar, which was kept upside down. He was taking butter from a pot which was hanging from the ceiling on a swing, and he was feeding it to the monkeys. She saw Krishna looking this way and that way in fear of her, because he was conscious of his naughty behavior. After seeing her son so engaged, she very silently approached him from behind. Krishna, however, saw her coming towards him with a stick in her hand, and he immediately got down from the grinding mortar and began to flee in fear. Mother Yashoda chased him to all corners, trying to capture the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never approached even by the expert meditations of great yogis. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is never caught by the yogis and speculators, was playing just like a little child for such a great devotee as Mother Yashoda. A verse from the Brahma Samhita that says that the yogis never catch the Supreme Personality of Godhead by drilling the respiration. And another verse saying that bhakti cannot be attained through the Vedas, but very easily through the process of bhakti. Those 2 verses, please. One more time. Yat pada pallava yugambi nidaya kumbha dvanve pranama samaye saganadi raja vignan vidhantum alamasya jagatrayasya govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami. Shamalangi, the meaning? Something? The meaning of the verse? Oh, I changed it up. I'm sorry. Yat pantastu koti shatavatsara sambragambyo vayodadhapi manaso munipungavanam sopyastiya prapadasinya vichincha tatve govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami.
I'm kind of forgetting. But the Muni Pungavanam are the very, great saints, and even the Gyanis and these saints, they cannot reach Krishna by, controlling their senses and even respiration. Even if they travel at the speed of mind, I think that is also there. They cannot. It's not easy to reach Krishna, but with devotion, one can reach Krishna. I think that's the broader sense. Over millions of years also they cannot reach him.
Vayoradhapi manaso, if they travel the speed of the wind and the mind, Vayoradhapi manaso, Muni Pungavana, even the best of all the munis, the Muni Pungavanam. Sopyastiya prapadachinja, even they can't reach the tips of the toes of Krishna, even if they try like that. And what about a verse that says, through bhakti, then Krishna can be attained, from the Brahma Samhita? Tarupam madhyam purana purusham navayovanam cha vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhaktao govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Mukharvin, the meaning?
Advaitam Achyutam. Advaitam means is non-dual. Advaitam Achyutam means is non-fallible. Anadi means he is no beginning. Anadim Ananta, he is limitless. His form is limitless. Ananta Rupam. Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam cha. Adyam means he is from the beginning. And Puran means he is the most old. Puran Purusham, but he is yet a person. Some Yavanam cha, and also he is also youthful. Yavanam cha, Vedesu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakta. He is very difficult to find out. Vedesu durlabam adurlabam. Yet he is difficult to find out through the Vedas. Through the Vedas.
Can't be found.
But atma bhakta, by the devotional service, can be found. I worship such Govinda, Supreme Personality of God.
That's good. What's a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, where Krishna says, you can meditate on me like this. You can meditate on me in a specific way. Go ahead. He tells different ways, in one verse, different ways to meditate upon him.
Kavim Puranam Anushashiram Anoraniyam Shamanusmaredya Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat.
Elaborate.
Kavim is I don't know, Kavim is...
Kavi means learned, the most learned, right?
Most learned, Puranam, very old. Anusha, the controller, Anushash, Kavim Puranam, Anushataram. I don't know the way.
Yeah, but do it without looking. Just do the best you can, because it helps to grow your brain in that direction.
And then Kavim Puranam.
Anoraniyam sam.
Anor is smaller than the smallest.
Yeah.
Anoraniyam sham anusmaredyaha. Sarvasya dhataram. Achintya Rupam is the one who cannot be, you cannot comprehend him. And Aditya Varnam is bright like the sun, and who dispels the darkness, Tamasaha Parastat. So he asks Arjuna that you can meditate me in all these ways, meditate upon me in all these ways.
What about Savasya Dhataram? He's the support of everything. You're all not leaving, are you? No. Okay.
maintainer.
And tell us what that verse means to you.
This verse is one of my favorite verses. I should tell that because whenever I read that, so I feel that Krishna is so merciful. He's even telling Arjuna that you can, he's giving such details that you can, think of me in these forms. So for me, I don't know that Anora Aniyamsham, that smaller, that attracts a lot. That he can be so small that he can reside within our hearts. So. I really find Krishna's mercy in this verse, that he tells that you can think of me in all these various forms, because we sometimes think we can't see him, how is he, how should we think about him, so he just gives the answer.
Well done. Very nice. Very good. It's good to do these exercises all the time, because then it'll consolidate your realization and connect it to the Shastra, and then when you present, then it'll be forthcoming. You'll have all the connections. The realization and the synapses will also work as well. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is never caught by the yogis and speculators, was playing just like a little child for such a great devotee as Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda, however, could not easily catch the fast-running child because of her thin waist and heavy body. A verse from the Shirsh Upanishad, which says that the demigods can't catch Krishna, even if they run very fast. Anejadikam manaso jaiviyo naina deva nuvam purvanashat tadavato jnana teti tishtat tashminapo matarishva dadati. That he's, even the great controllers control the wind and the rain, they can't approach Krishna. Still, she tried to follow him as fast as possible. Her hair loosened and the flowers in her hair fell to the ground. Although she was tired, she somehow reached her naughty child and captured him. When he was caught, Krishna was almost on the point of crying. He smeared his hands over his eyes, which were anointed with black cosmetics. The child saw his mother's face while she stood over him, and his eyes became restless from fear. Mother Yashoda could understand that Krishna was unnecessarily afraid, and for his benefit she wanted to allay his fears. Being the topmost well-wisher of her child, Mother Yashoda thought, if the child is too fearful of me, I don't know what will happen to him. Mother Yashoda then threw away her stick. In order to punish him, she thought to bind his hands with some rope. She did not know the power of her little child, or that it was actually impossible for her to bind the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mother Yashoda was thinking that Krishna was her tiny child. She did not know that the child had no limitation. There was no inside or outside of him, no beginning or end. He is unlimited and all-pervading. Indeed, he is himself the whole cosmic manifestation. Still, Mother Yashoda was thinking of Krishna as her child. Although he is beyond the reach of all senses, she endeavored to bind him to a wooden grinding mortar. But when she tried to bind him, she found that the rope she was using was too short by 2 inches. So she gathered more ropes from the house and added to it, but still she found the same shortage. In this way, she collected all the ropes available at home, but when the final knot was added, she saw that the rope was still 2 inches too short. I'll read the sentence over. In this way, she collected all the ropes available at home, but when the final knot was added, she saw that the rope was 2 inches too short. In this way, she collected all the ropes available at home, but when the final knot was added, she saw that the rope was? Mother Yashoda was smiling, but she was astonished. How was it happening? In attempting to bind her son, she became tired. She was perspiring, and the garland on her head fell down. Then Lord Krishna appreciated the hard labor of his mother, and being compassionate upon her, he agreed to be bound up by the ropes. Krishna, playing as a human child in the house of Mother Yashoda, was performing his own selected pastimes. Otherwise, no one can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the pure devotee surrenders himself to the lotus feet of the Lord, who may either protect or vanquish the devotee forgets his subordinate position. Similarly, the Lord also feels transcendental pleasure by submitting himself to the protection of the devotee. This was exemplified by Krishna's surrender unto his mother, Yashoda. Krishna is the supreme bestower of all kinds of liberation to his devotees, but the benediction which was bestowed upon Mother Yashoda was never experienced even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or the goddess of fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, is never so completely known to the yogis and speculators, but he is easily available to his devotees, nor is he appreciated as the supreme reservoir of all pleasure by the yogis and speculators. After binding her son, Mother Yashoda engaged herself in household affairs. At that time, bound up by the wooden mortar, please bring me a first canto, Krishna could see a pair of trees before him, which were known as Arjuna trees. The great reservoir of pleasure, Lord Sri Krishna thus thought to himself, Mother Yashoda first of all left without feeding me sufficient milk, and therefore I broke the pot of yogurt and distributed the stock butter in charity to the monkeys. Now she has bound me to the wooden mortar, so I shall do something more mischievous than before. And thus he thought of pulling down the two very tall Arjuna trees. There is a history behind the pair of Arjuna trees. In their previous lives, they had been sons of Kuvera, and their names were Nalakuvera and Manigriva. Fortunately, they later came within the vision of the Lord. In their previous lives, the great sage Narada had cursed them in order to bestow the highest benediction of seeing Lord Krishna. This benediction curse was bestowed upon them because of their forgetfulness due to intoxication. This story will be narrated in the next chapter. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 9th chapter of Krishna, Mother Yashoda binding Lord Krishna. Good. This is from Queen Kunti, 1:8:31. I'll say it, then you can all repeat. That's 1:8:31, Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gopyadade Tvai Kritaga Siddhamatavad. Please repeat. So Gopi means the cowherd lady Yashoda. Adade means took up. Twayi, on your. Kritagasi, creating disturbances by breaking the butter pot. What does Kritagasi mean? Who knew that the Supreme Lord would create disturbances by breaking a butter pot? Dhamma, rope. Tavat, at that time. So we'll say again. I'll say, please repeat. Gopyadade tvai kritagasi dhamma tavad. Gopyadade tvai kritagasi dhamma tavad. Yate dashashru kalilanjana sambramaksham. Yate dashashru kalilanjana sambramaksham. So I'll say the word for word, please repeat. Ya, that which. Te, your. Dasha, situation. Ashu kalila, Ashru Kalila, over flooded with tears. Anjana, ointment. Sambrama, perturbed. Aksham, eyes. So means that ye yate dashashru kalilanjana sambramaksham. So your situation is that your eyes, Kunti is saying to Krishna, your eyes overflooded with tears. Ashu kalila. And Anjana, the ointment, sambrama aksham, the ointment from your eyes, began to run. Vaktram, face. Niniya, downwards. Bhaya bhavanaya, by thoughts of fear. Stitasya, Vaktram niniya bhava bhavanaya stitasya. So from your face, Vaktram niniya, downwards, bhaya, that refers to the last line, that the ointment's coming down the face, the anjana. And then bhavanaya, you're expressing fear of Mother Yashoda. Then samam vimohayati bhir api yad bibheti. Sa, that, mam, me, vimohayati, bewilders. Bhi api, even fear personified. Yat, whom, bibheti. So he says, this sight is bewildering to me because although you were afraid, but fear personified is afraid of you. And here's the full translation. My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes. And you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Here is another explanation of the bewilderment created by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme in all circumstances, as already explained. Here is a specific example of the Lord's being the Supreme and at the same time a plaything in the presence of his pure devotee. The Lord's pure devotee renders service unto the Lord out of unalloyed love only, and while discharging such devotional service, the pure devotee forgets the position of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord also accepts the loving service of his devotee more relishably when the service is rendered spontaneously out of pure affection, without anything of reverential admiration. Generally, the Lord is worshipped by the devotees in a reverential attitude, but the Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than himself. The Lord's pastimes in the original abode of Goloka Vrindavan are exchanged in that spirit. The friends of Krishna consider him one of them. They do not consider him to be of reverential importance. The parents of the Lord, who are all pure devotees, consider him a child only. The Lord accepts the chastisements of the parents more cheerfully than the prayers of the Vedic hymns. Similarly, he accepts the reproaches of his fiancées more palatably than the Vedic hymns. When Lord Krishna was present in this material world to manifest his eternal pastimes of the transcendental realm of Goloka Vrindavan, as an attraction for the people in general, he displayed a unique picture of subordination before his foster mother, Yashoda. The Lord, in his naturally childish, playful activities, used to spoil the stock butter of Mother Yashoda by breaking the pots and distributing the contents to his friends and playmates, including the celebrated monkeys of Vrindavan, who took advantage of the Lord's munificence. Mother Yashoda saw this, and out of her pure love, she wanted to make a show of punishment for her transcendental child. She took a rope and threatened the Lord that she would tie him up, and as is generally done in the ordinary household, as is generally done. Seeing the rope in in the hands of Mother Yashoda, the Lord bowed down with his head and began to weep, just like a child. And tears rolled down his cheeks, washing off the black ointment smeared about his beautiful eyes. This picture of the Lord is adored by Kunti Devi because she is conscious of the Lord's supreme position. He is feared often by fear personified, yet he is afraid of his mother, who wanted to punish him just like in an ordinary manner. Kunti was conscious of the exalted position of Krishna, whereas Yashoda was not. Therefore, Yashoda's position was more exalted than Kunti's. Mother Yashoda got the Lord as her child, and the Lord made her forget altogether that her child was the Lord himself. If Mother Yashoda had been conscious of the exalted position of the Lord, she would certainly have hesitated to punish the Lord. But she was made to forget this situation because the Lord wanted to make a complete gesture of childishness before the affectionate Yashoda. This exchange of love between the mother and the son was performed in a natural way, and Kunti, remembering the scene, was bewildered. And she could do nothing but praise the transcendental filial love. Indirectly, Mother Yashoda is praised for her unique position of love, for she could control even the all-powerful Lord as her beloved child. Yeah. So the Lord Chaitanya specifically came to introduce this kind of devotion. And in the Kalisantarana Upanishad, the holy name of Krishna is mentioned as the means for becoming liberated from the age of Kali, but the name, the conception of the name, we chanted the prayer earlier, Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shachi Putramatra Sarupam. Nama Shreshtam. Nama Shreshtam, Raghunath Das Goswami in this prayer to the spiritual master is saying that my Guru has given me Nama Shreshtam, the highest conception of the holy name. That is, not that it just Taraka Brahmanam, that it liberates me from the material world, but Nama Shreshtam means that this Shuddhanam, the pure name, and the conception of the intimacy in which it is uttered by the devotees in Goloka Vrindavan. Can somebody turn the temperature down by 2 degrees, please? Is so powerful that it controls even Krishna. That love through which the name is chanted, Nama Shreshtam. And this mood is what Lord Chaitanya specifically came to teach, the spontaneous devotional service of the residents of Goloka Vrindavan. And one can only get that devotion by following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. They're called Parishads. They're eternal associates of the Lord. They have a special position in that they're always there with the Lord and they're imbued with a very special mood of devotion to the Lord and spontaneous love. And the process taught by Rupa Goswami is that first one practices devotional service. And that practice means engaging the senses which are used to running after their objects and becoming profaned in the process because of being attached to dull matter. Thinking that the reflection of reality is actual reality. Therefore, the senses must be restrained. Vasho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jihva vegam, udropasta vegam, itan vegam, yo vishaheta dhira, sarvamapi mam pritivim nashishat. And then engaged properly in the devotional service of the Lord, he gives the principles which we chanted earlier in the Upadeshamrita, which he says that one should not collect too much, one should not be overly attached to the material world and so forth. And then he gives 6 principles. One should be enthusiastic, one should be patient and so forth, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. And then he talks about loving exchanges. One has to have association with devotees. We just turned it down. Didn't you just come from India? You should be used to it. So that devotional service and practice means that one has to engage the senses, although they may be unwilling at first. They may be unwilling to get up early in the morning and begin to chant Hare Krishna. The tongue says, I want to sing a Beatles song. And you say, no Beatles song this morning, unless that's one of George Harrison's. That you must chant Hare Krishna, do the mantra, 16 words, 32 syllables. And then the tongue says, now something else, and Prahlad Maharaj says what to do in this situation, that my eyes want to see scenes of sense gratification, my ears want to hear cinema songs, want to hear, and see these, why do you want to see that? It's like, I don't know, I just do. I've been doing it for millions of births. So in the practice of devotional service, one restrains the senses and one instead comes to see the beautiful form of the deity. One instead hears the bhajan. At first, when we chant all these shlokas early in the morning, it may seem like a lot of shlokas, and after a while we start feeling, no, don't stop the shlokas. When we chant the whole Bhagavad Gita on Gita Jayanti, and I'm thinking about doing a warm-up. I'm thinking we should have a few warm-ups before we get to and pick some special days, and we'll all come together and chant the whole Bhagavad Gita, get a little momentum going. It's always good. And then the senses start to develop an actual attraction for these things, and they become purified. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmanyana vritam sarvopati vinirmuktam tapratvena nirmalam. One becomes freed from the designations that I am from this family. I belong to this. This is my family. This is my caste. Lord Chaitanya said, Naham Vipro Nacha Narapatir Napi Vaisho Nashudro Naham Barni Nacha Gripatir Novanasto Yatirava Kintu Prodyan Nikila Paramananda Purnamritabhya Gopi Bartu Parakamalayur Das Anudasaha. I don't belong to any caste. I'm not a Brahmin, not a Kshatriya, not a Vaishya, not a Shudra. No brahmachari, I'm not a grihasta, vanaprastha, sannyasi. All these things are external designations. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the maintainer of the gopis. And getting back to the point, and that is that through this practice where we're actually keeping our senses in the proximity of the scenes of devotion, the sounds of devotion, the smells of devotion, then gradually they become purified and one develops a spontaneous attraction for them. And at first it comes in fits and starts, that, oh, there it was, and then maybe that's it, maybe I'm there, and then it goes away. And then it comes and it goes away, comes and it goes away. But then there's a point at which one's attraction becomes steady, and one realizes that one can realize for oneself that one's recovering one's spiritual health. Tada rajas tamo bhava kama lubadayasjaye chete etera navidam stitam sattve prasidati. One's mind becomes situated in this state of goodness and not affected by the moving modes like passion or the mode which keeps one in a stupid state and always asleep and unable to move, the ignorance. And one actually realizes it for oneself, and then the positive attraction for Krishna develops. And then there's a way in which one becomes very specifically attracted to a particular parishad, a particular devotee in the spiritual world. Their mood, it may be Mother Yashoda, one has this affinity, natural affinity. It's not by mental speculation, one's not to do this artificially or prematurely, but the Lord Chaitanya is explaining this process to his disciples, how gradually, that naturally one will be attracted. Actually, Krishna has a specific service for every living entity, and he extends himself. Although the soul may think, this is my idea, this is my taste, the Lord is also extending himself in a certain way. And there's a way in which the Swarup Shakti, the internal potency of the Lord, then touches the heart of the jiva, and he becomes enlivened and the heart melts. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes, and then one begins to actually experience bhava, or the mellows of love. And in those states, the spontaneous devotional service arises. One is engaged in a particular kind of hearing and chanting, in following the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of the Lord in Goloka Vrindavan, and cultivates devotional service like that. Tishtan vraje tananuragi jananugami. Rupa Goswami says one becomes situated in Vrindavan, and that way worships the Lord by following the footsteps of one of his parishads.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, can
Welcome
you give us...
back, Lavanya. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, every time you talk about from bhava to prema, I always wonder, I can see an example of the starting of bhava. When I look around with ISV, I can see the examples. Can you give me an example of the starting of prema, of a person, a personality that I could look at and say, that is the example?
Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is given, he was absorbed day and night, 24 hours a day. He had no care for where he would eat. He didn't ask for anything. He would just engage in chanting, and wherever he went, Krishna would personally maintain him. In fact, he came to him when he was sitting at Govinda Kund. A little boy walked up to him and said, "Hi, how you doing? What you doing here?" And he gave him a little pot of milk and said, "Here, this is for you." He said, "How'd you know I was here? How'd you know I was fasting?" And it's like, "Yeah, just take the milk. No one fasts in my village." And then he left. He disappeared, actually. And then Madhavendra Puri drank the milk, and he was remembering the beauty of the child, and he dozed a little bit. It's explained in Nectar Devotion, those in that state of consciousness don't really sleep. It's not, thinking about Home Depot or something. They're like, they go into a different mode of remembering Krishna. And so he was in this dreamlike state, and then the little boy came to him and said, "Oh, I'm Gopal. I'm in the bushes." The Pujari, when this place was attacked, it took me out and hid me in the bushes, and then everyone fled. And I've been here for many years. Please come save me. So when Madhavendra Puri came back to his external senses, then he went and got all the villagers. Now, can you imagine, getting everybody out and said, "There's a deity out there. How do you know?" It's like, "I just had a dream." But he was so potent that everyone said, "Okay, let's go." And they started digging through the jungle, and then they found the deity. And then because of the devotion of Madhavendra Puri, he said, "Put him on the hill, worship him," and so forth. And then a whole temple developed. This is how the deity manifests in the world, as Prabhupada explains in Srimad Bhagavatam. There are various forms of the Lord all over the world. The deity form appears because of the desire of a pure devotee to worship in a certain way. We see this Madhavendra Puri, a temple manifests because of the strength of his love and devotion. And then everyone else came and began to worship. Same thing when Prabhupada came. He established temples here, there, and everywhere. What did these American devotees know about deity worship? In fact, there's a description when Prabhupada went to Australia, there was nobody qualified because it was so early on. They just started there, and Prabhupada brought the deity over. He had to establish the deity. He was in a hurry because he had already had a couple heart attacks, and anytime he could leave, this was urgent. And so he prayed to Krishna, "I'm leaving you in the hands of these people. They don't know anything, but please don't mind, instruct them and help them to worship you," and so forth. And then, gradually they became acquainted with the ways of worshiping Krishna and so forth. And of course, we're all still trying to become acquainted with actually how to worship the deity and so forth. But when the Mahabhagavat comes, he can establish these temples and the mode of worship and everything like that. And when everyone else simply follows in the footsteps, then they become elevated. I didn't give a very specific, but detailed. I sort of went off in a different direction. But the point is that there are devotees like Madhavendra Puri who are mentioned in the Shastra, and you can study their character They have this prema. And Madhavendra Puri, of course, manifested first the mood of Vipralamba seva to the Lord in his service. And especially at the end of his life, he was crying and saying, "Oh my Lord, I couldn't serve you." And he was feeling this intense separation. And this was the precursor to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in the world, showing the full-blown manifestation of this Vipralamba seva brought by Madhavendra Puri. And there are many pure devotees who are in the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They came and danced, and they showed how the pure devotees act in this world, those imbued with prema. So by studying Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is specifically meant to see what are the characteristics and activities of those who are on that platform, then you can see.
One more question I had with your previous comment on we don't belong to anything, we don't belong to any. We try to train ourselves not to belong anywhere because we're Krishna's servants and he's everywhere. We belong to him. The thought came to me when I did travel that, though we go to India and we see, there are people from Radha Gopinath, there are people from Vrindavan temple, there are people from Chennai, from Tirupati. And then say, where are you from? I'm from ISKCON. I'm like, which one? Like, I'm ISV. So then what does that belong? Is that a wrong belonging?
Well, this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. And just as there are the New York Yankees and everyone divides up into groups. I don't know, you probably never heard of the New York Yankees. I don't know any names of teams for cricket or anything like that. Otherwise, I'd mention them. But there's a way in which people divide up into groups here in the material world. In the spiritual world, there are groups, ganas. And in these ganas, everyone has their particular mood. And they even have spiritual competition. That there's Radharani's group, there's Chandravali's group, and they're sort of, competing for serving Krishna in various ways. So it's a natural thing. Of course, as Prabhuji the other night, Gauranga or Govinda was explaining too, then it can be, in the material world, it can be tinged with the, material conception also. Let me pop the tire of the other team so they can't get out on Sankirtan and I can have a bigger score and things like that. The competition exists, but it's hard to imagine without the material contamination of envy or trying to put oneself in the center. And so anyway, that variety is there, that competition there, those ganas are there, those groups are there in the spiritual world as well. And that's what creates bliss, is the variety. The variety and the different ways in which the various devotees complement each other in their different moods of serving Krishna. This is what brings out the rasa in the highest form, as if just God alone, God is one, Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi, there's nothing, there's, just peace, Devotees don't like peace. Mentioned by Sanatana Goswami, they're against this peace idea. We go around and teach it at the this is teach you how to be peaceful. It's like you read and the other literatures like we don't like peace. We want complete disturbance in the service of Krishna. Like this whole Vraj means activity. That's what Vraj means. It means everyone's moving, and as we said before, even there's in the descriptions of Lord Jagannath, his features as Lord Jagannath are displaying this the reaction to the prema of his devotees. There's actually a story where Krishna and Balaram are feeling such separation from the residents of Vrindavan. And when they happen to hear a group talking about the separation that the devotees are feeling of Vrindavan, they go into this kind of ecstasy. And their limbs become distorted. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes his limbs would come within his body, sometimes they would extend. And the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita says, you're not going to hear about this in the Vedas. You don't hear about these things in the Vedas. Shrutam apyo panishadam. What is it? Shrutam apyo panishadam Tuttam Harikatamritat. That in the Upanishads, the Upanishads don't cause the heart to melt. You don't hear the intimate side of the Lord's association with devotees. Apya Upanishadad. Shrutam Apya Upanishadad. Shrutam Harikatamritat. You won't find it anywhere. It's in the. It's not in there. So yes, there are varieties, and in Vraj, no one ever sleeps. Krishna never sleeps. Think about it. He goes out in the daytime. He's tending the cows with his friends all day, and it looks like he comes back at night and sleeps, but he sneaks out again. He sneaks out. And he goes out and has rendezvous with his girlfriends at night. So he never sleeps. And, Mother Yashoda, she's in this motherly affection for him, so she can't imagine all these other things that he's doing. And it mentioned Brihat Bhagavatamrita, he comes back with scratches on his body, which is, he gets it from his girlfriends. And he's like, yeah, I fell in a bush. And when he's leaving for the morning, he says, yeah, watch out for those bushes. Everyone make sure he doesn't fall in the bushes. And they're kind of like, ha ha. So this...
So Guru Maharaj, then this whole pastime of Yashoda with so much love for Krishna, he has to leave her as the story progresses. He leaves her for Dwarka. It is passage of time. This does not happen in the spiritual world?
Yeah, it does. It happens over and over and over again. In fact, the pastime of Krishna leaving Vrindavan happens eternally in a reel that goes over and over again. And sometimes, the devotees experience it again and again and again. The pathos, which is just, it makes stones melt. It happens over and over again. This is explained in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, how every day this pastimes, every moment is actually enacted again, and the devotees, they forget. They don't remember but it's the deepest kind of ecstasy and a pleasure that they're experiencing, although externally it appears that this is a great misery. But Gaur Govinda Maharaj used to say, people would look at Gaudiya Vaishnavism and think, who'd want to do that? Because he would say, it's all just crying, 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 crying. What is Gaudiya Vaishnavism? Crying, 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 crying. We want Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And in Vraj, it's the city that never sleeps. Really, the city that never sleeps. They say Las Vegas is, but it's actually Vraj. That the devotees are always going and going and going. And in Krishna's, he's so carried away by the love of his devotees, who are just like mad after him, and he's controlled by that love. That's what this pastime is about. He's controlled by the love of Mother Yashoda, but he's not so much interested in the material world. He's not interested at all. If you consider Mahavishnu sleeping, he wakes up. There's a dream, didn't go so well, goes back to sleep. The material world comes out again, and it's not like no one's interested. There's no interest in the living entities. They're all absorbed in their own little movie, and they're not interested in Krishna. So it's a sleepy place, the material world, and the Lord doesn't have that much impetus. So yes.
Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. I was, when you were telling about these things are not there in the Vedas, it's only available in this wonderful literature, right? Bhagavad Puranam and all. I was reminded of one, actually I stumbled upon a video by one guy of another faith who I consider to be a fanatic. He was saying that he talked to someone in ISKCON, and he was actually telling his community that how these people in ISKCON are focusing on the Smriti more rather than the Shruti. Shruti is the Apaurushaya from this thing, but Smriti is written by someone. So they should be, so they are not actually very correct, like that he was saying. Even Bhagavad Gita, he was saying, is part of Smriti. So why they are focusing so much on that? So what would be a good befitting answer for this?
Srivas Pandit was very eager to answer this.
This question has been addressed in Tattva Sandarbha, wherein Srila Jiva Goswami, how he says that that Bhagavad Puran is actually not Smriti per se, and there are very intricate arguments, but a person would do well to refer to those particular answers given by Jiva Goswami. Thank you.
Yeah, the Tattva Sandarbha actually is your book to go into deeply. You should get it and read it. And there, Jiva Goswami produces quotes from Shruti and Smriti, which prove not only the efficacy of Smriti, but also its superiority. He goes a step beyond. Not that it's just as good as the Vedas, and he does prove that shastrically, but he also goes further to show how Smriti is more important than the Shruti. And there are, yes, Karunath Prabhu?
I was thinking of the verse in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Nigama kalpataror kalitam phalam sukam mukhadam ritadrava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavaka. That the whole Vedic literature is like a desire tree, and the ripened fruit of that desire tree is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is made even sweeter because it's cut by the beak of the parrot, Shukadev Goswami. And therefore everyone should drink this through their ears, this readily swallowable nectarian juice of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
But that's coming from Smriti.
Yeah, so it's not a proof.
Accept that.
It's not a proof, but anything that...
if you see in the Upanishads, part of Shruti, I quoted from the Kali Santarana Upanishad, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. It is saying that all of the Vedas, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate, if you actually have vision, the light is being shined, and you'll find that the purpose of all the Vedas is what? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's a progression of the way in which the Vedic sound comes from the flute of Krishna, and it comes as Omkar, and then it becomes manifest as the Gayatri Mantra, and then as the Kama Gayatri Mantra, and so forth. And really, in this essential form, when it becomes unpacked, so to speak, it's really describing this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is very methodically and irrefutably presented by Jiva Goswami in the Tattva Sandarbha. So I recommend that you read that and see that, and that's very important. It's an important question, and it's important for our Sampradaya, and that's why he brought the Tattva Sandarbha before any of the other Sandarbhas, which describe Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God and so forth. And that is, how do we know what we know? How do you derive knowledge? What is your epistemology? How do you actually derive knowledge, and how can you verify it? And he gives a very clear and methodical system of understanding how it is we get knowledge through Shruti, especially, and then how it is that the Shruti and the Smriti are actually the same, but the Smriti is better. Yes.
Another question, Prabhu. But to that, actually, I think Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj was saying that was one of the things why Srila Prabhupada ensured we had purports on Shri Ishopanishad, which is part of Shruti rather than Smriti. So, question was, Prabhu, more on Just maybe mental speculation, but I was just thinking, out of the deities of Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu around, he manifested his more symptoms when he took sannyas. Same as Madhavendra Puri, you said. But then when we see the deities, almost like 95% of the deities are in his grahastha form, in which he has long hairs. So any reason we don't see too many sannyas?
The devotees in Navadvip, the devotees of Mahaprabhu don't like that he took sannyas, actually. And you can see that when he went to take sannyas, they were devastated. And even the description of his hair being cut, when Vaishnavas hear that description, they begin to weep, that how could they touch his hair? And they think of him as the prince of Navadvip. That's how the devotees want to worship him. And deity worship means, you offer all these, amenities and comforts to the Lord. You worship him like a king. And the devotees tried that after he took sannyas. Who was it, Damodar, who brought him oil? Jagadananda brought him this special oil in clay pots, and he said, give this to Mahaprabhu. So Govinda brought it to Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu said, I won't take that, I'm a sannyasi. Give it to the temple, they can burn it in the lamps, this expensive oil. And they took it back to Jagadananda, and he became pouty, and then Mahaprabhu came up to him in the courtyard and said, I'm a sannyasi, I can't take this oil. They'll think I'm a Dari sannyasi, some kind of, faker, if I'm wearing oil all the time. So you give that oil that you brought to the temple. And Jagadananda, he took the whole pot of oil and he smashed it in the courtyard. And he said, I didn't bring any oil. Who told you to bring any oil? He went in his room and he slammed the door and he locked it and he stayed in there for 3 days fasting until Mahaprabhu came knocking on the door. Jagadananda, can you cook for me, please? Come out and cook. So Jagadananda came out and cooked, and then Mahaprabhu wanted him to eat also, but he wouldn't eat. He said, no, I serve you, you take. And then I said, now you take. And he said, yes, after you, later. And then Mahaprabhu told Govinda, you make sure he eats. So also the devotees tried to make him a bed, and they took from the Shamuli tree, this Shamuli tree, which I have in my front yard, a Shamuli tree. You can come see it has the spikes on the side. It's a Shamuli tree. Described sometimes like the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body looked like a Shamuli. But it has these pods that come out, and inside the pod there's this silk. They call it silk cotton tree also. And then they took all this and they put it in cloth and they put it down and they said, here, Mahaprabhu, lie on this mattress. It's like, I'm not lying on a mattress, I'm a sannyasi, I lie on the ground. So they had a big fight about it. They were always trying to, so worshiping Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi, like the devotees, they're pining for him to come back to Navadvip. So they meditate on him as the prince of Navadvip with his beautiful hair. He's so cool. I mean, Nimai Pandit in Navadvip, there's nobody cooler. He's got his Brahman thread on, his dhoti's tied like this, and he's coming down the road. So you want a piece of me? Come on up. You want to debate? Step over here. I'll knock you from here to Jagannath Puri. He was so like everything about him, and all the devotees like, there he is. They couldn't take their eyes off him. And then he took sannyas and went away, and they were just like devastated. And so the mood of the deity worship of Mahaprabhu is in this mood that he is in Navadvip and the great prince and the great dancer like that. There's one, as you know better than me, there's one beautiful deity of Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi in Jagannath Puri, standing there right on the beach. But generally, that's the mood of the deity worship for the Gaudiyas. What else? Yeah?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Since you mentioned, association many times in today's lecture, right? I would like to, share my experiences. Like initially, right, I never took this word very seriously in the sense I never paid attention until I experienced this one day, So some time ago, right, I mean, I was struggling, with my sadhana, and then we were at a gathering, and then, I had the lunch and I was coming out and my mind was thinking, I'm already behind rounds today, and stuff like that. And then right across me, I saw Mukharvinda Prabhu, and I told him the issues that I'm facing, you know, how to improve my sadhana and chanting. And then he listened to me patiently, and he gave me 3 bullet points, and they were like this. He said, you know, get more rounds in one shot, you know, get rounds done early in the morning. And then the third one he mentioned, I was very worried about the quality of my chanting. And then he mentioned a quote that Srila Prabhupada told, saying, you know, chanting 16 rounds, that's a quality. And then I just listened to all of those, and then, you know, in the subsequent days, I just blindly followed what he said, and then life was like so smooth, you know. So then,
good.
So experience, you know, certain things, you know, until you experience it, you really don't know the meaning of it. So I'm very thankful to this.
Association is so important. It's everything, really. And there's a really nice advice, because the mind is so unwilling sometimes to cooperate, that we have to have this counting, this practice of finishing our quota. And then oftentimes, as we're doing that, the mind will come along. And the Shastra also says that if you're offensive in your chanting, Nama parada yuktanam namanyeva harantyagam avishani prayuktani namevarta karanicha. That if you're offensive in chanting, that the remedy is to keep chanting and don't stop. Constantly chant. And interestingly, because, you know, oftentimes the mind says, there's another trick of the mind, there's no quality in this, so I can't chant anymore. But then I like Mukharvinda Prabhu's answer that if you keep chanting, then you'll come to the point of quality also. So that's kind of there's a quality in keeping going. One of the mantras, once when I was in Hawaii a long time ago, some brahmachari came up to me as I was just pulling out to go catch a flight. And he said, you know, this, that, and what should I do? And I said, keep on keeping on. Because we were in a hurry. I had a flight to catch. I said, keep on keeping on. And I saw him 3 years later. And he came up, he goes, I didn't remember him. And he's like, you remember Hawaii? And he gave me this advice. I said, what did I say? He said, keep on keeping on. It works so well. And this is you know, in chanting and in practicing, keep on keeping on, keep going, keep doing, because then gradually, as we were saying before, that practice, the quota actually becomes, instead of medicine, it becomes food. It becomes actually our real sustenance, and we desire to have it after some time. Welcome, everybody.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thanks for coming. Yes, Hare Krishna. Please go ahead.
It's Kathleen.
Hare Krishna, Kathleen.
Hare Krishna. I was hoping you would elaborate a little bit on, because I'm not sure if I wrote it down right. You said Krishna has a specific duty for each individual jiva. And I'm just wondering, you know, I know we have free will, but how is it that he also has a specific duty for us?
Well, everyone has a unique quality, and that is why we are created, so to speak, in that God has unlimited desire to enjoy. And what is the enjoyment? The enjoyment is rasa. It's the relationship. And ek bahusham, the Vedas say, the one has become many for his enjoyment. And that enjoyment means that there are unlimited relationships. So every living entity has a unique way in which he gives pleasure to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his relationship. And you see, even in his Vrindavan pastimes, the devotees all have a unique way of pleasing the Lord. Madhu Mangal, who's in his appearance in Vrindavan is like a brahmana, and he's always joking with the Lord. He's always trying to get more ladus, and he's making all these, you know, funny remarks and everything like that. And he's like, he's always giving making Krishna laugh and so forth. And there are others who have a more serious role. They're protecting Krishna. You can read this in the Nectar of Devotion. Some of his friends, they have more of a sense of a paternal relationship as well as being a friend. They sort of like an older brother. You know, they carry a big stick and they're watching out for Krishna, that no one comes near him and so forth. And so there's a way in which every soul has an eternal relationship with Krishna. Sanitya nitya sambandha, prakritischa paraivasa. It's a transcendental relationship. And that is meant to please Krishna. So one of the amazing aspects of Krishna's creation is that there's not one particle that's the same as another. There's not one soul that's the same as another. Everyone and everything is unique. Vishesha. Everything is special. The mind lumps it all together and says, you know, I'm bored. But how can you be bored when everything is different? Every situation is different, every circumstance. So the whole topic of our relationship with Krishna, it's theoretical until one purifies the senses and enters into that relationship on the spiritual platform through the Swarup Shakti, or the internal energy of the Lord. And that is how that happens is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and so forth. And there's endless debate. I'll just say this without getting into the endless debate with 2 minutes left. There's endless debate about how this relationship very specifically manifests at a particular time. Is it our idea? Is it Krishna's idea? And so forth. There's preliminary information in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu about this. And our acharyas warn us not to speculate on it too much before one has actual realization of it, because what is the use? It's like a little child or something talking about sex, because what does he know? It's just an idea. But until the puberty, there's no even, facility for that. So what are you talking about anyway? So there's a way in which, before one comes to that position, it's a theoretical idea. But the point is that we are parts and parcels of Krishna. We have an eternal relationship with him, and it is unique. And it becomes awakened by the mercy of the Lord as we perform devotional service, and he extends his grace to us. There's a way in which he will reveal that relationship. Although, as I said before, some indication by our acharyas that we may think it's our idea. When he reveals it, it may seem like it came from me, but it's actually, there's a mutual exchange going on between Krishna and the living entity. I hope that helps a little bit, Kathleen. Kathleen is okay? She's on mute? Okay. Thank you for your excellent question. And now we've come to the end of our Shastra Jam. We chanted shlokas for an hour and 10 minutes, and we heard from the Krishna book. And now we're going to have a Guru Puja. By worshiping the Vaishnav, then all of these things can become realized by the mercy of the Vaishnav. So we'll sing this song worshiping Vaishnav, and we're going to worship His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and we'll offer flowers one after another, and the men can offer flowers, and the woman can offer flowers, men, woman, man, like that, and then we'll sing before the deity, and then we'll honor Mahaprasadam, and then we can go out and do service in the community by bringing people the Krishna book. Door to door, we'll make sure that everybody has a Krishna book. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. Go premanande aribo. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripasanabe vacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. We're continuing our next reading of the Krishna book with the deliverance of Nalakuvera and Manigriva. That is something that no one will want to miss. And what to speak of after that? The killing of the demons, Vatsasura and Bakasura. Who is Bakasura?
Sister.
The brother of Putana, Baki. Hello, Baki. Pardon me? Sundarananda Prabhu. Oh, thank you everyone for joining us online. It was so nice to be with you. We're going to continue the broadcast for a little while, so please stay tuned. Hare Krishna. You made all the printouts? Okay, good. And let's think about because there's one day that everyone's completed. I was thinking even we could just up on a screen.
Naam Srishta before one before it was some words.
Hare Krishna. Anyone who'd like can join us for the Guru Puja. We're going to gather around Srila Prabhupada and sing the song, and we'll start with this prayer by Raghunath Das Goswami, glorifying the spiritual master. There's something obstructing our view of the mantra on the screen, an extra box. Namashreshtam manamapi shachiputra matra sarupam shirupam tasya gajamaruparim maturim goshtavatim Radha kundam girivaramoho radhika madhavasham prapto yasya pratita kripaya shigurum dham natosmi Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Kati Shadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalaba Kati Sadma Bando mui savadana mate Bando mui savadana mate Jahara Prashade Bhai Bhavatoriya Jah Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya Arna Kori Ho Mani Asha Arna Kori Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Eshe Utama Gati Jai Prashade Pure Sarva Asha Jai Prashade Pure Sarva Asha Chakudan dilo je janme janme Prabhu she Chakudano dilo je janme janme Prabhu she Divya gyan here prokashita Divya Gyandhre Prokashita Prema Bhakti Chaha Hoite Avidya Vinas sajate Vidigai Jahara Charito Vidigai Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Bukana Lukera Jivana Bukana Lukera Jivana Ha Prabhu Kora Doya De Amore Pada Chaya Prabhu Kora Doya De Amore Pada Chaya Ibeja Shri Shikti Bhuvana Ibeja Shri Shikti Bhuvana Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Pada Chaya Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Pada Chaya Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyarishatarine Tere Kita Garagina Diya Tere Kita Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Kali kukur kana jadi chao hai. Kali Juga Bhavana Kolibaya Nashana Shri Sachinandana Gao Hai. Gadadhar Madan Nitaya Pranadan Advaita Prapujita Gaura. Nimani Vishwambar Srinivashishwar Bhakta Samuha Chitta Chora. Andadiya Shashadar Maya Purishwa Nam Pravatana Shura. Grihi Jana Shikshaka Nyasikula Nayaka Madhavara Bhava Pura. Sarvabhauma Shodana Gajapati Tarana Ramananda Poshana Vira. Ruparana Vardana Shanatana Palana Haridas Modana Tira. Rajaras Bhavana Dushtamata Shatana Kapati Vigatana Kama. Shudha Bhakta Palana Shuksha Jnana Tarana Chala Bhakti Dushana Rama. Kali Kukur Karan Jadi Chao Hai. Karan Jadi Chao Hai. Vrindavan Koli Nashana Shri Sachinandana Gao Hai. Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namah Hare Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghuna Echai Gosai Kori Charanam Vandan Jaha Hoite Vignana Shabishta Puran Echai Gosai Jar Muitar Das Tansabara Parariru Mora Panchagras Tandera Charana Seve Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame Hoye Abhilash Chai Gosai Jabe Braje Kolabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Shri Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majami Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Koreash Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Narotamoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,